So my family, we've been foster carers for around 15 years. And we've had lots of children come to our home that we've supported. Some have been individuals, some have been siblings. And I think we've just sort of, we do the best we can. We work with the professionals, the team, work with the children to try and support them the best we can. And I think, so there's that side there's the fostering side, but then also as well, I work in education, so working in the pupil referral unit for many years. In that role, I started as a mentor, then I was teaching, and then I was the manager of the school after years of working there. And I met a lot of parents who talked about trying to get support for their child for years and years and years, to the point where they then get excluded from mainstream and end up in a pupil referral unit. So this is where who have been asked to leave mainstream. And it's always, I'm not in that role anymore, but those words always stuck with me. And I can even remember one parent whose child had, I can't remember what his issue was, but he ended up having to go to a secure unit. Wow. He had some sort of mental health issue, and she'd been, again, trying for years and years. And at that point, I was a family worker, and I can still remember her this is like 10 years ago, her breaking down in front of me saying, "Mike, I've got him in a place," because he was in schools not coping, Right. Now, going to foster care, most of the time things were working okay, but every now and again, something bizarre would happen, some strange behavior, decisions made that you don't really understand. How is that helping the child? Do you realize that he's only 4? So questions like that. So it's and I can remember there was one child, I suppose, that sort of tipped us over the edge as a family, and lots of creative things happened. But also, I can remember it was a sibling group, and one of the siblings, one of the foster carers gave up fostering, said, "Look, I can't be doing with this anymore." And she quit. My wife, she wrote letters to the local authority about how the children were treated, and I made a film as a creative person. So that's how it kind of came out of me, to deal with some of the stuff that I was seeing, and I was trying to think of a way to get people to really think about how they are working with children. And I've thought about standing outside the House of Parliament with my placard, saying whatever I need to say,
Yeah, because sometimes that's the only way to get change.
Yeah, so and when you see these people protesting about pollution and oil, things that they do to try and get noticed, it's causing a lot of aggro with everybody, so it's so I made a film. I'm a musician as well, so music and film is what I do, and I teach. I was lucky enough to get together with a few people that could help me make the film. We raised some money, did a crowdfunding campaign. Some of the team donated their time for free because of the subject matter, and they could see what I was trying to do. But I had a lot of help to get this film made. Met a script writer, Danny Oak is his name. A producer, Marilyn. And then what happened was, once I got my script written, that was like, okay, now I need some actors, And the funny thing was, it was sort of over Christmas period, so a lot of places had closed down. So I started looking at friends and family, and because I'm in the music business as well, I knew that there were actors or singers as well. They did that thing.
Yeah.
Got a little film I want to make. Can you help me out? So people came on board. There was people that I met when at the school gate. So when my children were going to nursery, or there was actors that I met at the school gate. Called them up, so and we set about making the film. Made the film. Took 2 years to make. There was a lot of complications trying to make the film because it's a film that I wasn't asked to make. Yeah. So if you contract
Mike, just pause there for a minute. There's someone at my door. They just won't go away. Hold on a minute. I'll be back in a second.
Oh, it's nice.
Let's see.
So I had a lot of support to make the film, and how can I put this?
Can I just pause you for a second there, though? Because I think, I don't know, I mean, perhaps there will be people who are listening who have a full appreciation of how long these things can take. But for those of us who don't really have too much of an idea, how is it that it took 2 years? Tell us a bit about that, because I think people will really need to appreciate the amount of hard work and that goes into these kind of endeavors.
Well, I tried my best to put, I basically tried to put the same mentality about even though this film is only 15 minutes long,
the
mindset in of it's a feature film, the mentality, the amount of work. So, you know, when people watch the film, they talk about there's the story and the emotion, but behind that, there's a lot of stuff that had to happen. So, you know, the reason why it took 2 years, as I was saying, was that I wasn't contracted to make this film. Okay, so normally when you contract someone to make a film, it starts on this date and it finishes on this date, and they're expected to get the product by that date.
Yeah.
So this project, I could say, of the heart. Okay.
Yeah.
I was teaching, I was performing, I was filming for other people, getting their jobs done quick when they wanted it, doing music videos, documentaries, all kind of stuff. But this job was done around all of that, because there was no money coming in for me doing this. We're making. So I had to do it when I had time. And also sometimes I had people offer me favors, so then I had to wait for them, because obviously they're doing the same, you know, able to pay them. You know, some of the jobs I ended up having to do myself, you know, because like when you know, let's say someone's doing editing, it could be £400 or £500 a day that you've got to pay them. So I'd run out of money. So I had to do it myself.
Sure.
So there's that kind of stuff. And there's, you know, so then we made the film, then we edited it, then I had to do music. Yeah. So I had to speak to a lot of musicians to do the music for me in certain parts of the film. So all the music is for the film. You know? I had the DOP, Lee Daly, who was the one who shot all the shots. He did the color grading, you know, so the film was going backwards and forwards. And then had someone master the sound and balance the sound. So I took it to a studio engineer, went to his studio, brought all the sound, he mixed it, he mastered it, brought it back, put it into the program, and then got in contact with the Lexi Cinema in Kensal Rise. I said, can we go use your cinema to test the sound? Because when we first screened the film, it was in the cinema. So we had to go to the cinema. All these things take time. And as I said before, you know, it's a film of passion, film of heart. So it's not something I was paid to do. So I had to do it around my day job.
Yeah, and I mean, I really think people kind of need to appreciate that, because I was speaking to some people last week about a project that they took on, which had to happen around their day jobs. They in fact did have deadlines, and it was putting on a conference of particular importance. But people are taking on these projects on top of what they already do on a shoestring budget. So continue taking us on the journey with regards to how you came to sort of feel, well, okay, we need to show this regularly. I know that the film also won awards. Continue with the story and tell us how things progressed.
Right. So one of the things that I did to make sure that I completed this film, so even though I was paying people to do certain things to make the film, you know, pay for their labor to get certain things done, I also had to put in an artificial real deadline. I use those two words, they're kind of contradicting each other, but I actually booked the Lexus Cinema before I'd finished in the film.
No pressure,
I had to put it there, you know, and it got done. and then we screened the film at the cinema, and it was quite something, because I remember going to the cinema and you know, I think even at that time I might have been unemployed, you know, at that particular time.
Okay.
So I went to the cinema and I said, I want to book your cinema to screen my film, and they told me how much it was going to cost. I did the maths. I thought, okay, I have to charge to cover the cost of the cinema. I'm going to have to charge £5 for a ticket.
Sure.
It's a short film, yeah, and it was like, okay, would people pay that money?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have no choice, because I can't afford to pay for the cost of this cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been told that sometimes when independent filmmakers do screenings, they don't really get a lot of people come. And for whatever reason, we sold it out.
Wow.
Tickets were gone. I went back to the cinema. I said, can I do another screening after this one I've just booked?
Mm-hmm.
They said, okay. That got sold out as well.
Excellent.
So, you know, it was an 80 seat, I think it's 80 seat cinema, so they both got sold out.
Okay.
And then I entered it into film festivals. And then I can remember when I got the first one, I thought, right, that's weird. You know what I mean? So, and then I started to get more and more awards. Because basically, you put it on this website called, I think it's Film Freeview, and it puts your film global all over the world.
Okay.
Anybody can see it, and I can enter any film festival that I want. You pay your subscription. So yes, you have to pay for that to be able to access this massive global domain. I then got a message from the Montreal Black Film Festival.
Okay.
They wanted to screen the film, like some other places. And would I come over? I went,
Yes.
So I spoke to a few people, said, oh, what should I do? Should I go? Should I not go? That's Mike, you got to go. You got to go. That was good. And luckily for me, my uncle lived in Montreal. So I called him up.
Okay.
Can I stay with you? He said, yeah, man, come. So, you know, that was really good to spend time with family, because the sad truth of it is, sometimes I only met I use foreign family was when there was a funeral or a wedding.
Yeah.
It was good to just go over and just listen to him talk. It was phenomenal. And then my cousins, I think they're in Toronto. I invited them, right? Not realizing how big Canada was. They're still laughing. They're still laughing at me now, because about 14 of them came to the screening, and it took them, well, it's a day trip, basically.
Yes, love. Yes. I've got a lot of family who live in Toronto as well. And
they had to stay.
That place is huge.
They had to stay over. So they had to come 5-6 hours, watch the film, hotel, and then go back the next day.
Did they fly or drive?
They drove, but I thought it was just, you know what I mean? So they're still laughing at me now, but you know, I appreciated the support, you know, because it was a big deal. And I didn't, you know, it was to watch the film on a massive screen was quite something. I did a Q&A afterwards, and you know, people were touched by the story, you know, and it was you know, people really, it hit them, you know.
It certainly did hit me. And as someone with a social work background, training and so on, you know, it did trigger so much in terms of how we function as social workers, particularly when I was fully understanding what was happening with the social work bit, the bits that talks about how we often disappoint the people that we work with, you know, quite often because of reasons beyond our control, but disappointment all the same. So before we move a bit more ahead, I just wanted to touch back on what motivated you to become a foster carer? Because I know you and your wife and your family are involved or had been involved in the whole fostering thing. Why did you become foster carer?
That was my wife's idea to do that.
Mm,
And for her, when I heard her story, because we both got our own individual stories, but her story is of growing up in Farnborough area,
okay.
which is sort of a army-based kind of environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she was watching her mum. There was a child, a black child, that her mum used to do her hair.
Right.
There's mainly white area,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a family with a white family with a black child, and they were having a struggle helping her with her hair.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife's mum
Mm-hmm.
to help her. So you imagine my wife as a child observing this.
Yes. Yes.
So when she grew up, she talked about wanting to be a foster carer, you know?
Okay.
I know for myself, I saw my parents do a lot of kinship caring,
Yeah.
looking after family members.
Family. Yeah.
They did that a lot. So that was my experience. So when we came together and she mentioned it, I said, yeah, we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we still have that conversation, you know, because we still have to have the conversation to say, can we still do this, you know,
Mm-hmm.
make sure we're still in the same place. And I think the reason why I mentioned like the two of us in that way, because I've been doing this campaign with the film Belonging, I meet a lot of people who say that they want to be a foster carer or adopt, but their partner does not.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people to do it, but their partner does not. You know, it could be the man or it could be the woman.
Yeah.
But you know, it's so when you have two people that come together and they agree to say, yes, we can do this, you know, that's the thing. And it's not, you know, it's not having a go at people that don't want to do it. It's just recognize that it's there, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I think it's essential that, you know, you come at this as a team. If there are two of you in the relationship, you know, it can't be one-sided. Both people have to agree. But as you say, it's better to be clear than to sort of take on the role and then find that, you know, really your heart's not in it. So your heart absolutely has to be in it if you want to do it.
It's also about people have different upbringing, different
Yeah.
experiences. You know, so for myself, again, because of this film, there's friends that I have that I didn't know they were in care.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
no idea. And to think, and when I think about it, is it something that you go around talking about all the time?
Exactly. No.
You know what I mean, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, if it comes up, people might mention it. You know what I mean? But you know, I've had friends that I've known a long time that I said, yeah, I was in care for 5 years or 10 years.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
I'm taken aback all the time. You know what I mean? When they tell me.
Yeah. So as you say, it's not necessarily something you talk about, and that's also partly to do with, I guess, our community and some of the sort of stigma around this particular issue. So you know, the film, after a lot of hard work, gets made. You absolutely have a message or messages that you wanted to bring across, as the film very, very much centers the child and the child's voice. But why did you and your team decide that a way of kind of delivering those very important messages was to have this regular showing of the film? And from what I hear, there'll be future films being made. Why did you guys come upon that as a process for getting the word out, if you like?
Okay, so when we first started screening the film, we were doing it in cinemas.
Okay.
So cinemas all over the place. Then the pandemic hit, and then went online. So I think the last screening we did in person was in Brent. There's an organization called Other Cinema. I think that was the last screening we did, and the pandemic hit. It's about, I think it's just about being consistent and not giving up. You know, I think that's definitely one of my temperaments. I don't know why I'm like that, but I know that we just need to keep going. And I think also as well, because I've made the film, we've still been having children come to our home.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm seeing similar things. Okay, nothing's changing here. What's going on? This is a different set of people now that I'm working with, but I can see that there's something not quite right here. So that I get reminded, that's why the film was made.
Yep.
We keep screening it. Okay. I was having a conversation with a lady that's come to be a friend of mine, who she invited me to a care conference in Liverpool in 2019, and I screened the film there to maybe 250 people who were care experienced and also professionals like social workers and teachers. I remember speaking to her maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, and I was telling her that I was starting to get tired, you know, because like every time I screen the film, it brings me back to some of the stuff that provokes me to journey, you know, and it's quite draining, you know. And she said to me, Rosie Cannon, her name is, she said to me, has everybody seen this film? I said, no. Said, please keep screening the film.
You've still got work to do.
You know what I mean? So I got re-energized by that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I've also got my brother, I've got my friend Dennis, I've got my family, my wife, friends, you know, that are saying it's really good what you're doing, keep screening the film. And I think, you know, I think, like I said before, because I keep seeing things that are troubling in the care sector, I said, let's keep showing the film. You know?
Yeah, I mean, one of the interesting things that I've heard you guys say, and certainly when I attended a screening, was that each time the film is screened, the audience, different audiences may come up with different issues, different concerns. It triggers different discussions, and there are people who have seen the film many times. I think I'm going to be heading up to my third time of seeing the film when you do the screening later this month. But it's also interesting, as someone who's seen the film a couple of times, to hear what other people think. So what are the kinds of themes that have come up from those screenings which have stayed with you?
I can remember once somebody talking about their experience of being in care, but in a very religious setting.
Okay.
So when they saw the pastor in the film, that triggered them.
Wow.
I haven't had many of those. That was a very rare one, because it wasn't really done in that context.
No.
But as we know, things can be seen from many angles. Me, one of the good things about the film is that I feel, from where I'm sitting, I may be biased, but it's very open. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that could be interpreted in many, depending on your own personal experience.
Absolutely.
People will see all kinds of stuff that's not even there. Yes, there might be a person representing something, like say the pastor. Yeah, he's just talking to a child.
Well, yeah, he was trying to be helpful on that occasion, but as you say, not everyone would have experienced that.
For that person, that individual, he was in a care home that was run by people in a religious setting. So that's what, boom, he was right back there. That's what he saw. I think people, I remember one time somebody said to me that Koji in the film's a very quiet boy. How could he be getting into detention? You know? And that's very interesting. because I know for myself, I work in education, and I've seen children who are very quiet cause all kind of havoc. Yeah. Yes, the loud ones can cause havoc too, but everybody can see them coming and think, okay, there's Johnny, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then some of the quiet ones are also doing stuff that can be very dangerous. We've had children in our home who are very quiet, but have displayed some very disturbing behavior, which has caused us as foster carers to try and get additional support for that child, because we can see, okay, they're not shouting or screaming, but I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, something's going on.
And
I mean, to be honest, you know, the film, the characters in the film, as you say, a lot of it's open to interpretation. And to me, part of it's about triggering people's thinking. I mean, the social worker in the film didn't say much, but then all the powerful stuff around the cancelled meetings and the cancelled appointments, you know, any social worker will recognize that. Any social worker will recognize that and will perhaps have feelings of guilt, or might want to become defensive about, you know, why it is that they do all these cancellations. So that discussion is still a very, very useful one to have, just to open up the space.
Yeah, and I think, you know, because I once somebody asked me if I was attacking social workers. And I said, no, not at all. I'm just trying to have a conversation. And I think it's what I talk to people is that, okay, you've mentioned about a social worker cancelling an appointment. I've asked you, why have they cancelled appointments? Yeah, because their caseload is, they've got 100 kids on their caseload. Is it because they had to go to court that day? What is it? Yeah. So I cancel appointments. People cancel appointments all the time. And so what I talk to the people on the screen about is that if you do cancel appointments, that's not an issue for me, right? What's the issue is that when people don't know why you cancelled it, or cancelled at the last minute, and there's not any warning, and there's no communication around that cancellation. So then it's people in a wonderment space, if there's such a word, as to and then you can start to fantasize. I wonder why they cancel. You start making stuff up.
Yeah.
You know?
But you know, I think we can let ourselves off the hook for those kinds of things, but you know, you still have a child who is very disappointed, or you still have carers who are very disappointed who wanted to, and it's just about reminding us that, you know, you don't, people aren't just items in your diary. If you shuffle things around, you need to really think what implications that's going to have. Sometimes it absolutely cannot be helped, and as you say, an explanation is a far better approach, but it needs to be thought about. That's what it said to me. I mean, you know, you get busy and you got high caseloads and whatever, but centrally, your job is about the relationships that you have with the people you're working with, and those things will impact on them. Wow.
It is, and I think, you know, and the sad truth of it is that sometimes we've had children who that has been their experience. So, but you know, and they may have been in situations where they've had lots of different social workers, you know, because we've seen. I can remember there's a couple of times I didn't meet the social worker at all. Yeah, I didn't even know who they were, and it kind of threw me. You know, but some of that is like, you know, okay, so how am I putting this now? Right, so there in the film there is a male foster carer who's frustrated about the child's behavior. Okay? I've been that person where I've been getting a phone call every day to come pick up this child because they're terrorizing the school, you know. But in my world, when I go to sessions for training and support groups and stuff like that, sometimes there's not a lot of men there. you know. So me and my wife might go to a session, and I might be of one man in the room, or maybe there's two of us in the room, and there's 12 women. Yeah. So I look at myself in that situation. I wonder why that is. Are we? What is that? You know what I mean? And how? So they approach me in a certain way because I'm there, and I think there's been times when, you know, there's frustration as well. You can speak to Mike if you want to. You know what I mean? You know, because you could say, or people could say, that looking after children is the woman's role. That's what you need to do, right? So sometimes the guy is a hang on fella on the side. I was at a male support group the other day, and that was some of the vibe that some of the men said, that when they go to things, they feel like they're there, but they're not really there.
Not that, yeah.
Job, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and it's real, and I think even as I know that when we have, you know, foster children, I do have to manage how I am with the children as well. So you know, the caring and stuff like that. So you know, if we have girls, then I will let my wife deal with that situation, and I'll always, because of the situation that we're dealing with. But you know,
I mean, that's that's a whole other theme, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So
it's a whole other theme. Yeah.
So, you know, safeguarding. I have to make sure that I don't step in the wrong place in terms of. But in terms of the professional world, sometimes it feels like the man is the side thing.
Yeah. Even though both of you are named as the foster carers.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, so I try my best to support my wife as best as possible, because sometimes a lot of it is coming at her all the time. You know what I mean? And she's exceptional at what she does, and you know, we both work in education. So yeah, there's a lot of things that get that we challenge in the world of foster.
Okay. I mean, yeah, and I mean, you know, that's an example of another theme that it potentially can emerge when you're screening. You may get people who may be male foster carers who attend and want to share something of that, something of their experience as male foster carers. So, you know, that amongst many other themes come up from this film. I mean, one of the things I guess I was really impressed with as well was Kojo. How on earth did you get him to be so adorable? And on top of that, you know, some of the facial expressions, I think that's probably what hits a lot of people. The sadness, the disappointment. I mean, he really captured all that very well.
Well, all I can say to you is this. That is my nephew. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's Stephen's son. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I can remember reading the script, right, and realizing that I need a young boy to play the actor. And I swear to you now, right, the doorbell rang. I went to the front door. Casey is his name. Standing at the door. And I'm looking at him thinking,
you could do that.
I said to him, have you ever considered acting? He goes, not really. I said, would you be interested in, you know, auditioning for this part? He just said, yeah, right. I gave him the script. I swear to you again, right? Within, might have been 2 weeks, he knew that script better than me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
He dug into that script.
No, the boy was on point. I tell you, the facial expressions. And when you think about most of the film, there was no dialogue from him. My gosh. Wow.
I mean, it was a bit of a long story because like when I'm originally was making that film, it was supposed to be 3 minutes long. And I was doing it for I was going to put it into a competition that said it had to be 3 minutes long. We made the film and I watched it. I thought, oh my gosh, this can't be a 3 minute film. And we then had some tech problems about various things. And then I had to film some more, which was really good because then it allowed Koji to be older. Yeah. I had one issue. I had this child one. In fact, the child that I say again, tipped me over the edge to say that. There was a band that I was playing with, and I had to. Sometimes when I learn songs, I just put the CD in and I listen to songs over and over again.
By ear, yeah.
So I was driving this child to the nursery, listening to this song, or various songs. And there was one song, right? Imagine, if you can imagine, he might have been 3 or 4. He learned the whole words to the song, right? So several years later now, this child has moved on, gone for better. I said, right, this song has got to be in the film. So I contacted the artist. I said, mate, I need that tune in my film. He says, no problem. Wow. Right? Put the tune in my film, right? Thing was sounding sweet. This was going to be at the end of the film. Okay? So now, part of the process of filming is that you also have to do the business side of it, to sort out copywriting, release, get things signed off. I come to get the thing signed now. Suddenly there's a problem. Part of the team said that because he didn't ask permission to put the song on the track, wasn't able to do it.
Oh, wow.
I thought, so I called him up. So the funny thing is, I know all of these people. Yeah. But mate, do you not understand what I'm trying to do with this film? I need this song. I'm really sorry, Mike. I can't do it. All right. So, all right, cool. I tried my best charm. Didn't work. Didn't work. Dear. I thought I tried my best charm, but you know, life has taught me a lot of things. All right, cool. Keep your music. Right. So, and then I can't remember the time span. Because my younger son does music. Okay. Now, if you think about it, so basically over the time, his music is getting better and better and better, right? Because I walk past his room, so I'm hearing tunes. So I think one day I must have been walking past, I'm thinking,
that's not bad.
You know what I'm saying? Right? So, yes, he's my child, but I still got to knock on his door, you know what I mean?
Of course.
I knock on his door. I said, you know, can you give me 4 or 5 of your songs that I can have a listen to? Right? Songs. I listened to the tunes. I thought, right, this tune. So I go back to him. I says, look, can I have this tune for the film? No problem. I said, you just change 1 or 2 words in there, and that was it. Put it on the timeline, and that is the tune, right? Now that is my son, Sheldon. Yeah. There's been many times people have said that is one of the best songs in the film. Because, you know, not to give too much away, but the opening statement of I think he says something like, here we go again. You know, that's the opening statement of the song. Here we go again, you know? Yeah. So, you know, that is a theme. Oh, someone's at my door. You know, that is a theme that sadly I've seen with some of the children that we have. Yes. Here we go again. I can remember once I met a young adult at an organization, I'd done a gig somewhere in central London. I wish I could remember the name of the organisation. And the person who booked me knew that I was also a foster carer. So they were introducing me. It was a charity gig. So they introduced me to these young people. So I was chatting away. And this young lady, she might have been like 25. And she's telling me that she'd moved like 14 times, you know, as a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. And her siblings were still in care. You know, and when you hear these things, it's quite it's hard to hear, but that's a fact. So, you know, you wouldn't know that to look at her. You know, she's all well put together, you know, stuff like that. Everything was, you know, she was doing really well for herself, you know, and you know, but one of the things she also said was that she was talking to me about how the social services were trying to get her to look after her siblings, you know, and she was, well, I've just managed to get out and get a job,
get
and
myself together.
I can't deal with that right now, you know. So that was her struggle at the time, and you know, she felt aware about it, but she was, you know, she got herself together. But when, you know, like I said, when she said like 14 times she'd moved, you know,
that hit you.
that's quite harsh. And I think it's you know, so that again, when I talk about how the adults in the room make decisions, it's about just knowing that okay, if they have to move, why are they moving? You know, is there another way around it? What else? You know, and just the impact on that. You know, when I got invited to number 10 by the Fostering Network.
I was gonna ask, that was gonna be my next question as we move towards wrapping up. Why on earth were you invited to number 10, and did they see the film?
Not as far as I know, but they've definitely seen the campaign.
Oh, good.
You know, I yet to get to the bottom of who was the main person that instigated me being invited, but it was Fostering Network fortnight week, so it was all around that fortnight.
Okay.
So there were lots of other foster carers there. There might have been about, I don't know, 20 of us that were invited off my head. And everybody had their thing that they wanted to say about trying to make things better for foster carers and also children in care. And one of the things that I was speaking about was that, you know, because there's lots of things that we could say, but I just sort of said one thing, was that if there was a way of, I think the word I used was ring fencing money for a therapist or a child that goes into care. And I know that I could ask people about, you know, is there money? And they will say yes. But then I know that we've been in situations as a foster caring family where we've tried to get support. And it's either the waiting list is 1.5 years, or we're making choices about what we're spending the money on. So that's when so I thought, when I heard that, I thought, well, that's crazy, right? Because everybody was agreeing, right? Even when I was at number 10, everybody kept talking about a child moving from their home into care. That's trauma. Everybody agreed. Whether the child was, you know, because sometimes we have, let's say, parents. We've had quite a few parents who, even mum or dad, have had mental health issues and been sectioned. There's no other family around, so the child has gone into care. So that parent hasn't been, you know, they've not looked after that child in a bad way. Just that they've become very ill with the child. So suddenly that child has to move from their distress that their parent is in hospital, and then they've got, you know, there might be some support that is needed around that, additional to what the foster carers are happening. And we just found that it was always a bit of a song and dance trying to, if we mentioned, you know, we think this child might need therapy, you know. So was that they didn't believe what we were saying as foster carers, or I think it was a valid request, or, you know, I don't know, but sometimes there seems to be a barrier.
yeah, quite often at the root of it, it is money. But as you say, if in terms of investing in the services, monies could be ring fenced, that might be a good starting point, because anyone with any ounce of sense will know and realize that if a child does become looked after, quite often the circumstances are dire. You know what I mean? So trauma is an absolute feature in there. But I think activities like yours, coming from the perspective of a foster carer or foster carers who are in it, so to speak, is so powerful. Because sometimes when the professional people get together, in terms of the social workers, the psychiatrists, the therapists, and the policymakers and whatever, it seems as though that moves further and further and further away from the child's needs. So it's good that foster carers and foster carer organizations can take up the mantle and contribute to the fight, if you like. As we move towards closing, Mike, what's happening over the next few months? And tell us a little bit about your vision for the future, because we have touched on it slightly outside of this forum. Your intentions to make more films and so on, and how's that going to happen? How are you going to do that? What's the vision?
Okay, so if I just mentioned the part of the motivation, so what I've found by, again, this film has opened me up to talking to a lot of people, people who are older, and I think life is different depending on what age you are. There's different things that come at you.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed a lady. She came to the screening of Belonging, and we interviewed and spoke with her, Marianne Hodd, who talked about going to university.
Okay.
This is stuff that I was unaware of when you're in care, is that you need a guarantor. In fact, everybody needs a guarantor when you go to university. If you want to stay in a flat and you want to rent it, someone's got to be your guarantor. And she was talking about how she didn't have one. So suddenly she's in a little predicament. But then she saw her friends whose parents were there, they were her guarantor. So who was her parent?
Yeah.
Was her parent? So she's looking at the local authority. So, there's all these hoops that people have to jump through depending on what age you are and what support you get. So I want to try and make films that show people at different ages.
Yeah.
So the next film we're going to make is, of a child that's older.
Right.
So that's basically where we're at now. We're trying to get funding to the next set of films. So I've got like 6 scripts written already.
Oh, cool.
We're talking to various people to see if they can support us making these films, and it just sort of continues the story of Koji, because one of the things about Belonging, which you've seen, is that it ends in a particular way, being very, very cagey and vague about that. It ends in a way, but there's people ask, what happened? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I told them, the reality is, because you asked me a while ago, do we keep in contact? A lot of times when children have left us, I have no idea.
Wow.
Me and my wife talk about it sometimes. I wonder how such and such is getting on. Sometimes we do ask, or sometimes people will say, oh, yeah, we're going to see how we can do something so you can, link up with that person. And more than often, it doesn't really happen, But it might be if that that young person grows up, they may decide to come and find us.
Yes.
But the reality is that most of the kids we've had are very, very young, 4, 5, 6, 10. You know what I mean? So it'd be very difficult for them to say, Mum or Dad, I'm going to see my foster carers and just go up and depending on where they are in the country. So it's facilitating that is not as straightforward. for a young person. But when they're older, yes, no
Yeah,
problem.
that may happen in the future.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So I've definitely been in meetings where people are talking about how to keep those connections going, because it's important, you know. So we're trying to make more films around that subject, you know, and I'm trying to make it in a way that it's not so much it's foster care, you know, non-stop, because I'm trying to make it like real life, because you know, people could fall in love, people could like to play football, but they just are in care as well. You know, it's not that's not their whole being. When I spoke to, well, actually, I went to I was invited to a online, it was sort of a media library about the care sector. So there was anybody, I apologize, I can't remember the name of it, but it was again Rosie Cannon that invited me to it, where they had people have written books, poems, films, anything to do with the care sector, as they've created this library of it. Now, what she didn't tell me was that when she invited me, was that she put belonging in there, which kind of, I wasn't expecting that, you know. Yeah, that was quite something. But what she was talking about was that if you watch most superhero films, the people have lost their parents, they're in care. Yeah, so it's a theme that is being pushed all the time.
Yeah. I mean, the possibilities are infinite, really.
Yeah,
they really are, in terms of stories.
Yeah, but what people were sometimes saying was that someone is what you're seeing. Obviously, it's, you know, fantasy as well. That it's not always factually correct. You know what I mean? So do they speak to know how it is for a person in care? So that was something that they were looking at as well, to try and get, you know. So there were some people who have been in care where there might be consultants to make sure that people get things
correct.
You know what I mean? So yeah, so like I said, I'm doing pitches every now and again to producers, to see what interest we can around making new films, you know, and that is one of our things that we're trying to do, to just help keep the story going. I'm also been working with David Jackson as well, trying to get his
yes,
feature.
David was a guest on the podcast a couple of weeks ago.
So we've met a lot of amazing people, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Spent a lot of time with him talking, and again, I've read his book, and you know, the thought that stuck with me was that I've got this person's book, I've read the book, this is a true story. That's what came out of my mouth. This is a true story. I can't believe this is a true story.
I'm telling you.
You know,
horrendous.
You know, it's like
absolutely horrendous.
You know, so the things that he's experienced, that he's gone through. You know, I thought these people are wicked. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it's still, So I've had to process that a lot. You know. Because it's not a world that I know. You know what I mean?
No. But I suppose you can provide the vehicle through which the stories can be told, and I think the film vehicle is a very, very powerful one, and it doesn't need to be 2-3 hours long. 15 minutes is enough to shake people up. So that's fantastic. Tell us, before you go, Mike, when is the next screening? And is there anything else that you want to sort of share before you leave us?
The next screening is on the 21st of June. Then we've got one in July. Let's see if I've been clever enough to actually put that in my diary. July. Okay, hopefully not July the 19th will be the next one after that. Hopefully.
Okay, so I'll get those dates and get the links from you and put them in the show notes. So that'd be really helpful. Anything else that you want to leave us with before you go?
Okay, so if you haven't seen the film Belonging, please do come and see it. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to get everybody to work together more constructively, be respectful of people's opinions. I was speaking to somebody yesterday who worked in the care sector, and she was talking about how, you know, sometimes she would say stuff like, I don't think that's the right decision. And she felt like she was just being shut down, you know?
Yeah.
They didn't want to hear what she had to say, you know, to the point where she left. She said, I can't do this job anymore, resign. You know, so it's so if people don't feel valued, you know, and they hear that enough, they will leave. So I'm just trying to promote to see how people can work together more effectively and just hear what everybody has to say, you know, because when I talk about it, you mentioned the word team, you know, you got the social workers, you have the teachers, you have the police, you have foster carers, you have health professionals, you have therapists. I'm sure I've missed somebody out, but that's all a team of people that are working together. And myself and my wife, we have worked with teams that have just been amazing, and everybody's communicating. And you know, it's a very stressful situation, but we're talking and things are happening. And then we've been in other situations where that is not happening. And you've got a stressful situation that is suddenly magnified to be even more stressful.
Yes.
And there's no need for it, you know. It's you know, it could be a simple thing like, okay, I'm about to send this email. Who needs to know this information? Yeah. John, Harry, Mary, Rupert, boom. CC in, we need to CC it. And everybody, but you know, sadly our experiences, that's something that we get left out of stuff all the time. And it's like, oh. So, you know, I'm just trying to promote working together. I'd also say as well, even though I talked about ring fencing therapy, the reality is that if some of the parents that were supported earlier down the road,
oh gosh, well,
their child might not have care. You know, they might have got support to help them do whatever they need to do. That helps that family, that then they can support their children, and they don't get to care, or the family just break up. You know,
so that speaks to more investment in early intervention. Which we won't even go into the politics of all that, because you know it's
very straightforward.
I
used to be, I don't tell everybody this, but I used to be a builder.
Okay.
And I know that sometimes we used to go to houses where a drip from a tap mashed up the whole house. A drip. Imagine if you caught that drip at the start, there's no problem.
Absolutely.
But if you let that drip for 2 years, next minute we got to replace the whole floor, the kitchen, everything got to get replaced. From that tiny little drip.
Yep.
If you put that to a family, though, if you're able to support them, you know, at the beginning of trouble or halfway, you know, before things get crazy. But a lot of times, like I said, when I used to speak to parents, they would tell me they were trying to get help. No one wanted to listen. You know, that's all they kept saying. You know, until it got so bad, then people are coming to help. You know.
Well, when the crisis has occurred. Well, I think thank you for that analogy, Mike. I think that's one that definitely we can end on. Stopping a drip is far more valuable than waiting until the whole house gets mashed up. So I think I want to use that one with your permission. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for belonging. I know that certainly the screening that some of my colleagues attended, it left a huge impression on them, and they are really keen for social work students in particular to see the film and to generate, you know, more discussions and try and get into them the importance of some of the issues that came out of the film. So, you know, that's another group of people that I'm always concerned about. You know, what are the new generation taking forward? New generation of social workers, what are they taking forward?
Can I ask you one tiny question before we go?
Yeah, sure.
Who would you say when a child is in care, who would you say was the overall manager of all of the people that are at the school and the foster carers?
You mean the lead agency?
Who is managing all of those people?
Well, to be honest with you, we talk in terms of the lead agency, right? And invariably, social services have a role for bringing the various parts of the system together. But you know, I don't even need to tell you, there are often quite a lot of clinks and chinks, I should say, in doing that job well. So yeah, and I don't know if that's a good enough answer, but if it's to do with a safeguarding issue, it definitely is social workers or social work agency who needs to lead that. But nobody can do any of it in isolation. And that whole piece that you spoke about in terms of effective team working is a debate and a discussion that has been going on for many, many years. There's been policies, guidance, and practice guidance that has been written about it, and it still doesn't happen effectively in lots of cases, because you've said you've had some good experiences, some not so good. What that means, though, is that you can actually tell the difference. So yeah, it should be a team approach.
Okay.
It shouldn't be hierarchical, but there you go.
Well, it's a place to end, isn't it?
It is indeed. Mike, thank you so much. Speak to you soon. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.